Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our event. Thank you for attending Enhancing Data Protection. Before we begin in today's session, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Gilan Tabino, and I will be your host for today's event. Our company, Wordtext Systems, or WSI, has been in the business for 38 years as a pioneer and one of the leading IT distributors in the Philippines. We offer complete IT solutions for your business across industries. We have solutions for infrastructure, design, printing, and imaging, security and backup, and communications, carrying more than 40 named brands. If you have any requirements in the future, our main office is in Manila, and we have branches in Cebu and Davao that you may contact from 8 to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, or you may send us an email at sales@wsifil.com.ph. For more information about WSI and the solutions we offer, you may also visit our official website www.wordtext.com.ph. You can also visit our official social media accounts. We encourage everyone to feel free to like, share, and follow our media pages and be updated on the latest IT products and information. Lastly, we'd like to introduce our e-commerce site www.WeSellIt.ph, the first pure IT e-commerce site in the Philippines for small and mid-sized businesses. WeSellIt offers a wide range of hardware and software brands. If you want to know more, you may reach us after this webinar. Before we dive into today's session, there are some important things that you'll need to know. First, this webinar is being recorded. Second, if you have any questions for our presenter, you may send it in the chat panel on your screen and we will get back to you during our Q&A portion. And at the end of this webinar, we will be raffling a Voyager 3200. Winner must be present during the announcement to be eligible to claim the prize. Before we proceed, let me call on Mr. Ren Cardiego, Veeam Channel Manager, to give us his welcome remarks. Mr. Rencar?
Thank you very much, Jilan. So good morning, everyone. And I hope everyone is safe. And I would like to thank you for taking your time to attend our webinar today. I am Ren Cardiego, Channel Manager of Veeam Philippines. I am with the other members of our team, Jerome and Tay, who are both system engineers. So for this webinar, we hope to share with you on how Veeam can help your company with your data protection needs and how to further enhance them. As I see with the profile of our attendees today, some are already using Veeam and some we have active activities with through our partners. And we hope that after our session today, you will find something as with the other 500 plus companies who are already using Veeam in the Philippines since 2009. And these customers belong to different industries like telecommunications, finance, government, manufacturing, transportation, media and entertainment, retail, construction, agriculture, banking, electronics, shipping, food and beverage, just to name a few. So without further ado, let's start off the presentation. And to introduce our speaker for today, I'll be returning the floor back to Jilan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rencar. And to formally start off our session for today, I'd like to call on Mr. Tech Tay, the Senior Systems Engineer for Veeam. Mr. Tech Tay?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, uh, thank you for taking your time off, the attendees, for giving Veeam the opportunity and WSI to present to you about Veeam technology. How can we enhance your data protection during this COVID time, right? This pandemic situation, and even though there's such a situation, digital transformation still persists, right, in organizations. So let me present my slide first. Do a presentation. Right. So let's go. So say I'm Tay. Or in short, you can call me Tay or Texer. Right. I'm the team lead for system engineering, based out in Singapore, supporting the emerging market in SIC or Southeast Asia and Korea. Right. So, as I said earlier on, today, even though we are in the situation of a pandemic, right, most uh, business owner or CEOs will look at will still want to drive um, growth, and that is their number one strategic priority for 2020, right? Readying their business for 2021 or the next year, right? And 75% of the CEO believe that digital transformation is the number one activity to drive top line revenue, right? Let's look at it. Why do they want to do that, right? So one of the key things about driving digital transformation is to bring new revenue streams, um, giving improve productivity, giving better business outcome and response, or even business to uh, value added services to the customers, right? However, doing digital transformation is not so easy. There's a lot of stop gaps that are stopping um, business owners or CEOs to move this initiative forward, right? Or some of the key things that are stopping them or preventing them from achieving that is the lack of IT skills or transformative expertise, right? When people talk about digital transformation, such as going to the cloud or embarking DevOps, stuff like that, it means that IT supporting their business need to transform or even adopt at that fast business pace, right? However, at the back end of, especially coming from a legacy background, right, there's a lot of dependency of the legacy system and technology, right? And when we talk about that, always drive to the idea of time and budget. Time in the sense of getting people ready to adopt this, the new technology, right? Learning curve can be steep, right? And then, of course, the next thing that is closest to the heart of all IT people is budget, asking the budget from the business owner, right? So how do we overcome important digital transformation or challenges ahead, right? The main thing that we always want to do is to free yourself from maintaining fragmented legacy system, right? I believe some of you have experienced that, right? In a environment, if you are running a heterogeneous environment or you are embarking of a old legacy system at the same time, looking at new technologies such as going to the cloud, right? Meaning DevOps environment, right? You probably have issues that having to have two sets of management systems or even two sets of backup systems to protect that, right? So you probably have fragmented like data protection, backup and recovery solution for that kind of environment, right? So of course, having that, you also want to have the flexibility to release those trapped data, drive flexibility across all platforms. You want to have the capability um, to merge or leverage data from different sources, right? And then most importantly, combining those information or those data into a single platform, and where you can move those data, making them frictionless, leveraging those data across all platforms, right? And give you business insight, right? Uncovering those data in your environment and provide you deep insight and gather those information from there. right? Of course, the most important thing for IT is when we are doing that transformation, we want to mitigate that risk and reduce the IT cost through intelligent automated system, right? As you know, in the legacy system, there's a lot of scripting, there's a lot of customization that you need to do, right? Just to do certain tasks, right? Just to keep things repetitively, right? So one of the key things that we want to do is, as we move on to modernize your business, you want to automate your processes. You want to streamline your processes, right? So automation is one of the key things that you need to have in order to overcome your transformation journey, right? So the other last part of it is about um, security, governance, compliance. I think this is something very common when I'm talking to Philippine customers is security, um, um, privacy law, stuff like that. They are very concerned about their customers' data being leaked out. So these are things that you also want to govern or protect when you are doing this digital transformation. You want to ensure that your data is secure, your data is free from ransomware or malware, right? You want to make sure that data that you receive or you are sending out are free from all those anomalies or vulnerabilities, right? Right. That in the end of the thing, day is to protect your reputation and the company branding. Right. So how does Veeam delivers, right? So Veeam can help you to advance your infrastructure or your environment from legacy system by freeing up people and resources while protecting your workloads, right? So how do we free up, right? So we will look at automation. How can we make a repetitive task in automated fashion, right? That is one of the key things. Once you free up your people, resources, and time, they can focus more of delivering value-added activities or tasks to the business. The next thing is we want to adopt hybrid cloud acceleration. How can Veeam, as a data protection vendor, uh, give you that capability of embarking on a cloud journey, right? How can we help you accelerate to the cloud, right? So and make it flexible for you, right? So don't think as accelerating to the cloud, right? Look at Veeam. On top of that, we can also help you uh, move frictionlessly between cloud and on-prem scenario. So that's why we say hybrid cloud acceleration is something that Veeam does best, right? And the next things is data security, right? Data security compliance, right? How can we automate data security, privacy, and protecting you and your customers' privacy, right? So those are things that Veeam can deliver and help you unlock your data and transform IT. So let's look into a bit deeper, right? So in backup modernization, how can we advance from legacy system, right? So how do we future-proof your data protection, right? As Ranka have said earlier, some of you are already our customers. However, I'm not too sure whether you have used some of our more advanced feature, right? How can we future-proof your data protection? As you know, we do data protection in the virtualization world when we started in 2006 and we launched our first product in 2008. We are the first vendor in the market that do data protection for virtualization. And then we move on to support other virtualizations hypervisor in the market. We also go on to a bit of legacy where people certain platforms cannot be virtualized, certain application cannot be virtualized. We support physical world, we support physical workload. In 2018, we also have embarked on the cloud journey, right? I mean, in terms of our product, we do work with the hyperscaler in the of the world, such as Azure, AWS, and IBM, right? Even in we also have our Veeam Cloud Service Provider that provide backup as a service, DR as a service offering, right? On top of that, all right, just for sneak peek, we are also going to support GCP or Google Cloud Platform in the very near future, right? So what we are going to do is that by protecting your workload, we also give you that capability to future-proof your data protection by having the capability to restore to the hyperscaler, for example, Azure or AWS, right? Any data that you protect on-prem by Veeam, we have the capability for you to restore them into the public cloud, right? That's right. So this is future proofing, right? Not only on the technical aspect of things, right? Just to touch base a bit on the financial aspect or on the commercial aspect. Even Veeam licenses are built in line with the technology, right? So you have the capability to protect your workload on-prem or on the virtualized virtual environment on-prem. But when you move your workload to the cloud, that license can be reused or repurposed, right? And protect those workload in the cloud, right? So as I say, those licenses can be used with other products from Veeam that protects workload natively, cloud native data protection software in Azure, in AWS, as well as in the near future GCP, right? So with automation, we also free up resources, right? So you want to have automation that do the mundane tasks of backing up and doing data protection, right? Data protection is something that most administrator hates about it. It's boring. It's never sexy about it, right? So we want to free them from them by having automation built into it. And last but not least, this is something very important. Data protection is no longer about buying insurance, right? When you talk about buying insurance, you can relate that you buy insurance just for that what if scenario, right? The what if something happens to you, then you use that insurance. But in data protection, we have something we call reuse of data to drive business acceleration, as the last point stated. What we can do is that you are the backup data that you're holding in your organization is a wealth of information, right? It's raw data, but it's a wealth of information sitting there untouched, right? Those data could be compliance data, or those data are meant for your DR purpose in the event that you are hit by any unfortunate events. You are able to quickly restore that. Compliance data are those long-term retention data sitting there, right? So we're using those data, such as data mining, doing data classification, right? By doing data mining, you can look at possibility of doing business analytics on using those data, those long-term data and those short-term backup data to drive your business initiative, to drive your business digital transformation, right? So those are the things that when we talk about data modernization, it's no longer just data protection. It has more to it, leveraging those backup data to drive your business. Right. So looking at hybrid cloud acceleration, how can we reduce the barrier to rapid cloud adoption, right? I'm not too sure how many of you are in the midst or are already in the cloud journey, or is already in cloud, or right. I believe a lot of organization do not adopt a single platform where everything goes to the cloud or everything stays on-prem, right? Or even the cloud, you may not even adopt a single cloud vendor, right? A service provider. You may adopt a hybrid cloud plus multi-cloud strategy where your workload are spread across multiple cloud service provider, right? As well as some on-prem workloads reside, right? So what you can do is that Veeam can help you unify your cloud backup, restore DR, as well as migration, right? How does migration comes in? Just want to elaborate a bit more. When you do backup, if you are familiar with our Veeam solution or product, you'll notice that we always have these two options, right? We have the capability to, uh, uh, for example, maybe I'm not too no preference, right? Just take for example, you are backing up data from AWS. You are also given the capability using Veeam technology to restore to Azure if you want to. We have the capability to back up from a particular cloud vendor and then restore to another cloud vendor, your right. So for this case today, out of the box, we support Azure. We also support AWS. In the near future, GCP will be in the portfolio as well, right? You want to have the capability to do capacity planning, right? You want to be able to have a capability to monitor and manage your capacity usage, as well as to plan and mitigate any risk if you are running out of space, or you are running out, are you consuming too much um, uh, resources in the cloud, right? That is to manage your operational costs, right? So we also want to give you the capability to manage, give you visibility of your hybrid cloud, right? Whether it's on-prem, private cloud, or in the public cloud, right? What is the usage like, right? So with Veeam customer, you probably can save about 49% of public cloud data protection, right? There's some smart technology built into our product, where when we back up data, we store data. For example, in the public cloud storage, we do have a source side deduplication, right? We don't create multiple copy of your data blocks, right? We keep a single copy of it. So that will help you to consume less storages in the public cloud, right? And then when we do recovery, pulling data from the public cloud to restore to on-prem, we have some smart technology built in. We don't just blindly pull data to restore to your on-prem, right, workload, right? We have the capability to identify, for example, if that data blocks, backup data blocks resides on-prem in the local repository where you store your backup data is already there, and you want to restore something from the cloud, and we notice that that data block is already present in the local repository, we will use that local repository data block from the local repository instead of pulling the data block from the public cloud, right? That will help you to mitigate your egress costs from the public cloud. Right. So next, look at data security and compliance. I think this is something that everyone is talking about. How do we protect against cybersecurity threat? If you are concerned about if your company is embarking on cybersecurity initiative, looking how strategy, how can you make sure that your environment is secure? Always remember, right, cybersecurity is a strategy, right? And backup is your last line of defense. Data protection should be part of your cybersecurity strategy, right? Basically, data protection is your last line of defense, right? If all else fails, you restore data from from your backup solution, right? In this case, Veeam, right? So one of the key things is that we have built in something that I'll say available since 10 years ago. We have this thing called instant VM recovery. We have this thing called virtual labs, right? Whereby we can create sandbox environment using your backup data, right? By spinning up your backup data. Let's say, for example, simply put it, I back up you back up a virtual machine from VMware or from Hyper-V, and then what happens is that you can use that backup VM to spin it up like a virtual machine, literally like a virtual machine. Right? We had that technology in 2010 when we launched it in VMworld 2010, right? So once you spin it up, you can run all sort of tests, right? So you can why Veeam is unique. We are software defined, so we allow our customers to use the best of breed technology in terms of security aspect. In this case, to do virus scan, or even you can embark on your security vendor to do pen tests, penetration tests, or doing some deep packet scanning to verify if there's any malware, there's any malicious code reside within the virtual machine, right? As you know, ransomware may be something that is new, and most of the antivirus software may not able to detect it because it's too new. There's no signature available for it. It may not able. It may go through through certain loopholes and get into your systems. So is sometimes it's good to practice that taking some of the older, maybe a week old backup data, and then spinning them up, backup VMs, and spin them up, and then do a virus scan or do a pen test with the latest tools to pick out any malware residing within the virtual machine, right? In terms of control and compliance and governance, what we can do is that since we have that sandbox capability, we can spin up the virtual machine. You can run compliance tests, you can run governance tests, you can run certain scripts. For example, you may want to ask your DBA to run certain script to check whether is there any PDPA loophole, is there any customers that requested that their data should be removed from your CRM system or your marketing campaign, right? You can go in and remove them, check and see whether they exist. Or you can do certain things, and during the recovery, you have the capability using our data lab function, whereby you can spin up the virtual machine during the restore process, and then perform some data management or data cleansing by removing certain entry from there, or even doing data masking before you restore to your production environment or your development environment, right? So those are the things that we can do, right? The other thing that we also like to highlight with this sandbox or data labs environment, right, that is more closely related to the infra team of the IT department, whereby if you are going to do a security patch, or are you going to apply a Windows fix or certain security patches, you can spin up an environment, run that security patch, right, or certain fixes that you want to do to the particular virtual machine, run it, install it, run it, test it, and everything is okay, and then you apply it into your production, right? So instead of applying that security patch or install that particular software into your production straight away, that may risk certain corruption or may risk certain outages to your production, you can use that sandbox or data labs environment to perform that task for you to mitigate the risk as well. All right. So what does Veeam want to do, right? Fundamentally, Veeam want to be the most trusted provider for backup solution that deliver cloud data management, right? So that is our vision, our aim, right? Very, very basic. I just want to be the most trusted provider for backup solution. When you say trusted backup solution, means that when you use Veeam to backup, you are rest assured that you can restore that data, right? Um, Backup without recovery capability is actually garbage, right? So what Veeam does best, right, and what Veeam want to deliver to our customer is simplicity, simple, flexible, and reliable. Those customers that have our Veeam customers, I think you can relate to that, right? We are simple. Most of our task is result driven, guided through any task that you do is typically guided by a wizard. We are flexible. We are totally software defined, right? Basically, we work with any existing hardware server vendor. We have close relationship and collaboration with server vendor, storage vendors, right? And where we have tight integration with them, right? We are reliable. Reliable is not something that we say, right? One of the keywords when we say reliable is that it just works. So when you deploy our software, do expect it to work as what you expected. All right. So we are a clear market leader. It's not something that we say, right? These are the advisor in the market that say that Veeam is a clear market leader, right? Gartner, Forrester, IDC, right? And even if you go to Gartner Peer Insight, there where all the customers, all our existing Veeam customers give rating to us, do take some time to go in there and take a look at the review from our customers. Right. So 5 key capabilities that to guide your success when you're on the journey of digital transformation, right? As I said early on, backup modernization is one of them, hybrid cloud acceleration, and data security and compliance, right? If you break them up into five capabilities, these are the five capabilities: backup and recovery, right? Be always available with confidence that you can recover your situation fast, right? So backup and recovery, some of the key things in the market that we deliver first in the market is instant VM recovery, right? So instant VM recovery is something that, like I say a lot, we have it since 2010, right? Something that is always there. And we also have something called sure backup, where you use the same concept of sandboxing. By using the share backup feature, we create a sandbox environment and then power up the backup VMs live, right? Using that backup data, spin them up and then run them. You can perform certain tasks such as making sure the VM tools are running. You want to make sure that the network connectivity is okay, right? We also have certain built-in application tests that you can do. We also support scripts or, for example, if you have certain application, customized application that you want to test, you can create certain custom scripts to verify that your application is running fine, right, in that sure backup sandbox environment, right? So the other thing that we wanted to highlight is with backup, you definitely need to have monitoring and analytics, and that is something that is very different from our competitor. We do have analytics built into our monitoring software, right? Our monitoring and management software. So we do have capability to validate whether your setup has any anomalies or bad practices, whereby we will remediate for you if you choose to. We will highlight to you or notify you as a backup administrator, hey, you are not doing something right, right? And do you want to rectify it, right? So it's something that is within Veeam feature or software. You have the option to decide to remediate it automatically. If not, you can choose to do it on your own, right? We also will monitor the environment. So our monitoring is not just monitor backup environment. That is a given. Our monitoring capabilities also has the capability to monitor the virtual environment, right? But the virtual infrastructure such as VMware and Hyper-V, right? So we will monitor whether is your environment has sufficient disk space to create that snapshot. We will monitor whether your VMware environment have any often snapshot. Right? I'm not too sure. Those in the early days, often snapshot is quite a common problem for in a backup environment, right? If you have an often snapshot, your backup will tends to fail, right? So we have built-in features such to look out for often snapshot. We call it snapshot hunters, and if we detect such often snapshot, the snapshot hunter will try to remove that snapshot for you automatically, right? Without you having, unless something crops up and we are unable to do it, we will notify you, right? So these are things, right? Let's talk something closer now. Is we even built into our monitoring software to look out for potential ransomware activities. Right? Since I say that we monitor the virtual infrastructure, we are able to detect such as resources such as this IO memory utilization, right? So you know that ransomware is kind of doing some encryption. Encryption activities typically will impact resources such as memory, this IO. If your virtual machine starts to behave out of the norm with high IO on your disk data store or your VMDK disk, or your memory usage on that particular virtual machine is high, we will notify the administrator through our monitoring software. Or we can also monitor based on the backup activities that we do, right? So as you know, we do backup, we do full backup, we do incremental backup. If your incremental backups came out to be at a normal size, right, the change rate is very high, enormous, right? You want to make sure that we will notify you, hey, this change rate, your daily incremental backup doesn't seem to be right. It's more than the usual. We also will notify you and let you know that there's potential risk that there could be a ransomware. And then we notify the administrator. The administrator can then go and investigate whether is it uh, a ransomware activity has happened in your environment, right? Um, I would just like to say that this is not a prevention, but it's just a monitoring and notify you so that we can help you minimize the impact in your environment. We probably already got hit by some workload already got hit by ransomware, but we want to prevent it from spreading out throughout your organization. Right. So automation and orchestration, we have intelligent recovery orchestration and data reuse automation. Recovery automation is something that we always talk about, whereby you have capability to perform orchestrated, automated failover using the same concept of sandbox, right? With our instant VM recovery in our backup recovery environment, we can leverage that capability of instant VM recovery, or we can leverage the replication feature within our product, all right, and then create that sandbox environment for you to use that backup data to perform your DR drill, right? And then or the replication feature to the replica of your replication VM to spin it up in a sandbox environment and perform the necessary tests such as checking your VMware tools are running, doing the ping test, your network test is functioning, and then using the application testing to make sure that your application is functioning. Like, for example, your SQL services is running, or your web server like IIS is running fine. If you are using even Exchange, for example, Exchange services, right, SharePoint, those things are running fine. Right. If you have any um, custom application, you also can put in your own test script to make sure that your application, your custom application is running fine. All right. And then once that is done, we will generate a report, right? The report is just say, okay, your jobs is done successfully, completed successfully. That's all. We also will monitor your defined RTO, your SLA, right? Your service level objective, whether your RPO is met based on the backup or replication RPO schedule that you set, and also your recovery time objective. Does it meet your time recovery? So we take the whole restore sequence, create in a sandbox environment, restore them in your DR site, and then take down those time, and then at the end of the day, generate the report and give you the RTO. How long does it take to perform this DR drill test, right? And see whether that time taken is within your stated RTO, right? So these are the things that we can help you to do without much human intervention. Everything is automated, and you can even schedule it to do it without anyone involved. The other thing that I'd like to highlight next is hybrid cloud acceleration. So backup, restore, and protect critical data across any cloud with no cloud lock-in, right? So as I said earlier on, the organization may not embark on just a single cloud service provider, right? They may adopt multi-cloud, right? For example, organization may adopt some workload running in AWS, some workload running in Azure, right? And event that you are protecting this workload in the public cloud, and you also have the capability to decide that, okay, I maybe one of the cloud service provider is going to increase your price, right? Your operational cost is going to go up. So you may want to consider, hey, I may not want to do that, or what happens if one of your public some outages? You have the option to decide that I want to do a direct restore. I want to move or migrate my workload from one public cloud hyperscaler to another hyperscaler of your choice, right? So that is the flexibility of having using Veeam. We give you that that cloud mobility, right? Control in your hand, right? You do not have you are not locked in by any of the cloud vendor, right? Okay. Last but not least, data security and compliance. Ensured security compliance. I said earlier on, using that same concept of the sandbox, we call it data labs. You can do virus scan, you can do compliance check, or you can do data manipulation of your backup data before you restore the data and pass that data sets to a third-party contractor or to pass it to your DevOps, right? So you may want to make sure that certain sensitive data is not visible to your contractor or your DevOps teams. You can do data masking during the restore process, right? So those are governance and compliance capability. We also can do, and like I said earlier on, data scanning, right? To make sure that once in a while you want to sample some of your backup VMs and then do a check whether your data is your backup VMs are safe or not, free from malware or ransomware. So, what is cloud data management, right? So, in cloud data management, one of the five pillars that I said earlier on, the backup recovery, the cloud mobility, monitoring and analytics, governance and compliance, orchestration and automation, right? Right. So let's go into each one of them. Right. So in cloud data management, what we do is that Veeam does is that we protect workload in the public cloud. Right. We protect SaaS model, for example, Office 365 or OneDrive for Business. We protect application, enterprise applications such as SAP HANA, right, or even Oracle Amen, right. We protect virtual workloads, right? Whether you are running on VMware, you are running on Hyper-V, or even today, Nutanix Acropolis, or in the physical world, we are running Windows, Linux, even AIX or Solaris, Veeam support them, right? We give you the capability to reuse your data. We give you the orchestration capability. We want to monitor and we want to back up and replicate. And the other thing we want to highlight, we also have the storage API, right? This is something that we don't really talk about it, but if you are looking at enhancing your RPO much further, right? When you talk about backup or when you are looking at modernizing your backup solution, you want to look at the capability of not just using the backup software to perform the backup. You also want to look at the capability of the backup software to integrate with other hardware vendor, right? The hardware vendor could be, storage vendors in this case, where we can integrate with them and orchestrate the snapshot capability of the hardware vendor, right? So by able to control and orchestrate the snapshot, we can literally bring down your RPO in lower immediately, right? So for example, you can perform snapshot orchestration every hour during your business hour. That means Veeam can communicate with a storage array, hardware storage array, and tell the storage hardware array to perform an application consistent snapshot, right, of those virtual machine, right? Maybe for example, in this case, every hour, right? At the end of the day, we perform another snapshot and then we move the backup data into a secondary storage to store it offline, right? You do not want your backup data to reside on the same storage as your production, right? In case your production storage goes down, right? You still have a second copy of your data resided somewhere, right, for recovery purpose. All right, so coming back, let's look at the backup side of things. So backup recovery, let's look at it. So what is the challenges today, right? If you look at today, one of the key things that we want to address is to meet the recovery objective, RTO, RPO. And then we want to ensure that what you back up today, you can recover or you can restore, right? Gone are the days where I'm not too sure how many of you are as me. We use tape backup. We back up to tape, and the only options that we do validation of tape backup is to scan through the backup block, right? We check for any block that is corrupted, right? If those blocks are corrupted, we deem those backup as failed, right? So those are the days we no longer rely on. All right, these are not reliable kind of verification. Right, so hard to use, inflexible backup system. So those are things that we want to make it flexible. Veeam is very flexible, right? Remember our simple, flexible, and reliable, right? We are flexible, we are software defined. We work with, there's no hardware lock-in, there's no vendor lock-in. We work with most hardware vendors and server or storage vendors, right? We even have the capability, let's say, for example, you're looking at reusing your hardware, your servers, your storage. We have the capability to do that, right? To minimize your investment cost, right? Protecting your investment on those hardware, right? Protecting all data center environment. As I said earlier on, we protect a SaaS model, we protect physical, we protect virtual machine capability, right? So one of the key things, how do we address those challenges today, right? So we have intuitive backup and instant recovery, right? Remember the instant VM recovery capability, right? The instant VM recovery is not just restoring a virtual machine. We have the capability to give you application aware protection as well, right? So if you are doing a full VM recovery for a SQL server, rest assured that SQL server when you restore is usable, right? You do not need to do post recovery processes where you need to clean up your databases. You also have the automated backup testing with 100% verified recovery for all critical assets. So this is something that I talk about using that sure backup capability or sure replica feature within Veeam, right? Using the sandbox environment to power up your backup VMs and then run those test cases, right? So fully software defined for greater scalability and freedom of platform choice, right? So we are software defined. You have the flexibility to decide what are the hardware vendors you want to work with, right? That's your choice, right? So you never get into a situation that you are whole ransom by a hardware vendor. Right. So if you look at the product more on the product aspect of things, Vim Backup Replication is our flagship product, right? I guess majority of our customers in this group is using that product, Vim Backup Replication or VBR. You have the capability to protect AWS, Azure, or cloud managed service provider. We work with virtual, we work with physical. We do have agents for Windows, Linux, AIX, and Solaris, right? If we are looking at application protection, we have access, we have Veeam backup for Office 365, right? And then you can back up Office 365 workloads or protect your data, right? We have the capability to do protect your Active Directory, your Exchange SQL, SharePoint, right? As well as Oracle. Oracle is not here, right? Oracle, we have the option of Oracle Amen where you can protect Oracle databases as well as SAP HANA databases, right? So if I go on to the next one, cloud mobility, let's look at it. All right, same thing, portability of workloads. If you are on the cloud journey, you want to make sure that your solution can support you in that direction where can help you to back up those cloud workloads. You also give you the capability to restore to those cloud workload, right? If you have the capability to restore to those cloud workload, think of it as a DR on demand, a DR site on demand, whereby in the event of outages, you have the capability to take your backup data and restore directly to Azure or AWS, right? And then and continue running your workload in the public cloud. Or you can use, or if you do not have the luxury of a secondary site to perform your DR exercise, you can also consider using that direct restore to Azure or AWS to perform your DR drill every once in a while, right? So we protect workloads across the clouds. We have, right, and we do. You want to look at how do you want to reduce your long-term retention costs, right? Today the trend is tape is not dead yet. We do support tape. People still use tape to perform their backup, to keep data for long term. Tape is also does also provide you the air gap prevention of ransomware, right? And then how do you perform recovery to the cloud destination? These are the challenges when you are doing the cloud journey. You want to think what is a possibility. So the solution is to look at protection and portability of workloads, right? We can protect your workload on-prem. We give you the portability to recover your workload to the cloud, right? How can you utilize storage, cloud scale storage, right? Or in this case, we call it object storage, right? If you are going on the direction of tapeless, right, and you still have long-term retention criteria that you need to fulfill for compliance purpose, then the next viable options is looking at a cloud scale storage where it gives you unlimited storage at a lower cost, right? So how can Veeam help you by offering this capability, right? And the other thing is the VUL license. As I say, technology is one thing. How about the licensing aspect? How can the license help you in your journey to the cloud, right? So using the same VUL license, Veeam Universal license that you purchase to protect those workload on-prem, if so, in the near future, right, you move some of the workload to the public cloud, you can still use the Veeam Universal license and protect those workload in the public cloud as well, right? So you do not need to purchase additional license or you need to change license to protect those workload. So for Veeam Cloud Mobility, we have the recovery aspect of things. We can recover your workloads to the clouds in 2 simple steps, right? We maintain the portability of workloads anywhere, right? In terms of cloud data protection, we can backup, restore, and perform DR for cloud native workloads, right? We do have Veeam backup for AWS, Veeam backup for um, Azure, right? We are also in the midst. You're going to hear us from us soon. The Veeam backup for GCP or cloud, Google Cloud Platform, right? So the other thing is, if you are going on to tapeless journey, we have the feature built into our Veeam backup and replication. We call it the cloud here, whereby you can leverage object storage to store your long-term retention data, right? So that will help you to bring down your cost of storing data on spinning disk, right, or normal storage, right? Object storage is typically lower in cost, right? And the purpose of object storage is meant for long-term retention data, right? And it provides you the air gap for data protection, right? The VUL license is to protect any workload, whether is it on-prem, cloud, virtual physical application, or file share, right? It gives you that capability. So using that software approach, you have no vendor lock-in. You have the cloud native backups restore and DR. You can continue the continuity and availability across multiple cloud, and then right through technology as well as our Veeam Universal license. We also can automate the data retention in the cloud, right? Using our cloud here, we help you to um, backup data to the cloud. We also help you to manage the retention period of those data stored in the cloud, right? If that data is supposed to be stored for 7 years, after 7 years, those backup data will be removed from your cloud storage, cloud tier, right? Don't worry that you start growing and growing and never cease to stop growing, right? So next, let's look at the monitoring aspect of things, monitoring analytics. So if you look at monitoring, monitoring between cloud, physical and virtual, right? For a backup environment, you probably have fragmented and inconsistent monitoring tools across the board, right? Veeam want to give you the capability to monitor across the board in terms of the backup infrastructure, right? You want to, it has limited capacity and upgrade planning. You want to have visibility of your environment. How much space do you have consume, or how much free space do you have on your repository, right? Are you meeting your recovery objective? And then you want to proof of recovery and DR, right? You want to have a report and monitoring capability to see whether those share backup that you ran, share replica that you run are successful, and that reports will help you generate, right? You want to have that visibility. So with that, we want to give you a AI-driven infrastructure monitoring and diagnostic tools, right? How do we, the solution must be able to automate, remediate unexpected issues, right? Critical backups or DR processes, reduce the budget complexities, simplify your console, right? Single pane of glass without using multiple tools, right? That will help you to manage your costs. Right. So with monitoring analytics, we have a couple of things. We have one Veeam One monitoring and analytics. Veeam One is infrastructure performance and configuration assessment. Right. Out of the box, we can give you 100 over reports. Right. We can monitor for compliance. We can monitor for any changes made within your environment. Right. We also have the intelligent diagnostic remediation. right? The AI-driven diagnostic, right? So this AI diagnostic is a cool feature that's available in the no other vendor provide that. What we do is that our support team will update this diagnostic stuff. If we monitor any anomalies in the world, we'll update a signature. We'll push down this signature to the Veeam One monitoring software, right, in your environment, and this this signature will then look at the reports, the logs within Veeam backup and replication, and look for any anomaly. If that anomaly happens to be in your environment, we will provide you the notification, right? If that's something that Veeam can remediate automatically, we'll prompt the administrator, say, do you want to remediate automatically? Do you have that options, right? Right. So capacity planning is something that also important. You want to know that whether are you running out of this space for your backup, right? You do not want to caught off guard when you run out of this space and you cannot perform backup, right? And that risks your RPO and that's possibly risks your RTO as well, right? You want to reduce your budget planning. Right. Of course, VMAN also have the budget planning feature, chargeback feature, right? So as you know, IT is always a cost center to most businesses, right? But IT drive supports the business, right? So how do you want to charge back in the sense of if a business requests for so much resources, the kind of SLA based on so you want to able to provide that information and then charge back to that business owner or the line of business of your choice. Right. So orchestration automation, let's look at it, right? One of key I would say KPI for IT is how do you want to improve your DR, your business owner, the stakeholders who ask, how do you ensure your DR is can we reduce our downtime? Can we improve the SLA for our customers? How can we maximize the application development, right? Maintain upgrades, maintain service continuity, and how do we prove the reliability of the platform? How do you prove that my backup works? Right. Those are things that the challenges from IT's perspective. How do you give that assurance to the business owner? Right. So how do we do that? We need to have the capability to have the API integration or to integrate with the application or the infrastructure. How can we make it repeatable without any human intervention? Right. Recurring testing to make sure that things are going in the direction that we want. How do we enhance our documentation without much human intervention, resources involvement, right? How do we do intelligent recovery orchestration to ensure that we increase our availability? Right? How do we support application development, DevOps by leveraging existing data? So these are things that that we want to give to the business. Right. So we have Veeam Ability Orchestrator. Right. Veeam Ability Orchestrator allows you to create and update compliance based on the RTO, RPO perspective, and then automatically generate a documentation based on demand, right? So when we do a test, we do some change in the test sequence or the recovery process, that documentation need to be automatically generated, right? Without too much hassle from the IT folks, right? How can we extend the orchestration of disaster recovery and then use it as a planned migration, right? So DR tools that use as migration, that's something new, right? So how can you help your organization doing a failover to your DR site and then do a migration on the production and then from there fail back, right? So those are things that we can orchestrate as well. How to improve security and audit trail of all activities, right? How do we capture all those DR activities, who initiated, who are the role key players and who are the people involved, right? So how do we capture all this information? The next thing is how can we leverage the data labs, right? The sandbox thing that I've been talking about. How can we leverage those using that sandbox? And using that sandbox, we can go back to your backup data and leverage those data. We use those data for other purpose, right? For to enhance your business acceleration, right? Achieve using that sandbox environment to help your DevOps teams to do testing, develop your apps, right? And then quickly bring them to production, go to market, right? So the Veeam Availability Orchestrator can help you automate backup and DR testing, simple to use DR orchestration, right? So once you create that DR orchestration, you can repeat it as and when you use it in the schedule orderly fashion, and you can even schedule it. Using those tests, simple to those testing, you can validate your RTO and RPO targets, right? And then how can you use these data labs that you created for your DevOps for faster DevOps, and then bring those development to the market. All right. So last but not least, the governance. Right. So for governance and compliance, the challenges for the IT is how do we defend against ransomware and viruses. So this is something that is very common right now, especially in this pandemic situation, right? We keep hearing various organizations got hit by ransomware. Not something that happens in the US, or it's quite common in this region. I can hear it almost every week that this customer got hit by ransomware or thing like that. So those are things that how do you defend against it? How can you make sure that your workloads are predictable in terms of deployment? How can you support the frequent change in compliance in the market, right? Whether is it industrial compliance or standards, or is it a government compliance requirement or regulation, right? And how are you sure that your environment meets those compliance, right? So one of the key thing of using Veeam is that solution is that you want to have the capability to assess the application security and compliance, privacy, right? Ensure that you follow, if your organization are having businesses with the EU or European Union, you definitely need to follow the GDPR, right, before when you're restoring your data. And how do you integrate ransomware detection with remediation? So our products on the left side, you notice that Veeam Backup Replication, Veeam Data Labs, and Veeam Visibility Orchestrator have that capability and features to help you to achieve that, right? We can uncover security risks in real time, right? So you can, when you do a restore, you can put in our stage secure restore, whereby you can incorporate AV scan, right? So when you're performing a restore, you want to do a secure restore capability, just check mark, and then what happened is that we'll integrate with third-party AV to perform a scan prior to your restore to production, right? So you want to stop your detect any malware or ransomware in the track before you restore to a production, right? Right. So data lab, same thing, all right? Create a sandbox environment, reuse your data for business acceleration, test new upgrades or patches, right? You can apply hot fixes or anything like that before you do it in your production, right? Spin up those backup data virtual machine in your data lab environment, apply that fix, right? Do that antivirus scan, perform pen test or compliance verification before you restore your data to production, right? Same goes for Veeam Availability Orchestrator, where you automate the whole process instead of doing a manual sandbox environment. You can use Veeam Ability Orchestrator to do that sandbox environment testing, automatically schedule them and run them frequently. And you can even incorporate the antivirus scan or ransomware scan to check that your virtual machine, your backup virtual machine, does not contain any malware. Right. So with that, I would like to summarize that Veeam drive real results, right? So data protection is no longer just buying insurance and waiting for things to happen and then hope that recovery just works. Right. So free yourself from maintaining fragmented legacy system for data protection, backup, and recovery. So 74% of customers increase their staff productivity after deploying Veeam, right? Things just works, right? Reliable, all right? The things that you set, the expectation that you set with Veeam, it just works, right? And you want to mitigate the risk and reduce IT costs through intelligent automation, right? Orchestration and automation for your DR, especially DR drill test, takes up a lot of resources from people. You need to coordinate between different departments, stakeholders to be involved. So with VAO, Veeam Availability Orchestrator, you can schedule that, you can orchestrate that and run custom script or even standard scripts, right? Powering them up and run through those test scripts automatically without your any human intervention, right? Reduce downtime and reduce risk, right? And also that the automated dynamic documentation generated at the end of the test will help you to keep your DR or documentation updated. Right, using that reuse capability, you can release the trapped data, drive flexibility across data, right? So reusing those data to drive business acceleration, right? So whether is it data classification, data mining, using it for business analytics, right? 68% of customers can leverage those backup data for other purpose, right? So data security, 45% of customers experience reduced risk in audit and compliance failure, right? So you can spin up, you can do virus scan, you can do patching hotfixes, quickly mitigate those potential risks of a fix that breaks down your production online, your production's workload. You can do those testing in using your backup virtual machine, spin them up, apply the fixes, make sure things runs fine before you apply those patch in your production, right? That will help you mitigate any potential uh, um, problem with the software that you're going to install in production. All right, so hopefully with that, remember that Veeam give you backup modernization. We can help you to adopt the hybrid cloud acceleration. All right, remember the direct restore to cloud, leveraging cloud tier for infinite storage to store your backup data for compliance purpose, data security using that data labs, the sure backup or sure replica to ensure that you do reuse those data for testing, pen tests, hot fixes, doing AV scan, right? Ensure that your data is secure, right? Free from malware. All right, with that, thank you. All right, thank you for your time. Let me stop sharing the screen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tech Day, for that very informative presentation. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So for those who want to ask questions, you may send your questions on the chat panel located on your screen. So this is now the time. If you have any clarifications on the presentation that you would like to ask, you may send it now. Okay.
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 Do we have
Do you
any
have any
questions?
questions?
Okay. Do you have any
Okay. Do you
questions
have any
here?
questions here?
Uh-huh.
Huh?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so let me
All
answer
right.
that.
So let me answer that.
We are pure software,
We
so
are pure software. So
sorry, I got some feedback.
sorry, I got some feedback.
All right, so
Right. So
our backup is all pure software. I
our
mean,
backup is all pure software.
we
I mean,
work with
we work with
other hardware
other
vendor
hardware vendor
such as server vendors, the likes of the likes of I'll say HPE, Cisco, IBM, Lenovo. All these are the vendors that we work with, right? And then we don't really have any appliance in the aspects. So that's the direction that Veeam is going ahead with. The idea with that is also because sometimes when we go into an environment, the customer have the option to reuse their hardware. So we just install our software on top of that, that their servers, right? So the other direction we are going, I understand we hear you. We actually hear a lot of things from the market. Veeam is actually a very open company. We always listen from customer. One of the common question that we ask by our customer is, we definitely need to use Windows, but some of our components are still using Windows, and that brings up the cost of Windows licensing. So moving forward, we are slowly changing some of our component to support Linux as well, right? So except for the console, right? The console and the backup server, which is the main server, is still running on Windows, and that. However, for the repository or for the proxy, we are slowly as moving on to the Linux, right? At this moment, we are still very much Windows based. Um, running on Windows-based OS. Moving in our next version, you will hear more things that we're going to move some of our component to run on Linux as well. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tekte. I hope that answers the question of Leonardo. Okay, we have one more question from Ricky Cana. How about the license support, subscription or perpetual?
Moving forward, we are slowly changing
Oh, so a lot of feedback. Sorry. Let me mute.
to support Linux as well. Right. So except for the console, right? The console and the backup server, which is the main server, is running on Windows.
Hi. Sorry, there's a lot of feedback. So okay, so the license point of view, we support.
We are slowly as moving on to the Linux. Right. At this moment, we are still very much Windows based, running on Windows-based OS. Moving in our next version, you will hear more things that we're going to move some of our component to run on Linux as well.
You hear me? Hi, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Sorry, let me answer that. Right? Yeah, I
Okay.
answered that. How about the license support subscription or perpetual? I'll say that today we support both subscription and perpetual. Kind of. I'll try to keep the long story short. So today we have the socket license that only apply to the VMware platform as well as the Hyper-V platform. That is because of the previously when we launched earlier days when Veeam started off, we have this socket license. Those are based on perpetual license. Moving forward, we are also end of last year, October, we launched a VUL license. Veeam Universal License basically support the VSX as well as the VMware as well as the Hyper-V. We also support the newer platforms such as the Veeam agents for the various physical hosts that we support: Linux, Linux, Windows, AIX, as well as Solaris. At the same time, we also add on the support for AHV. So VUL license is based on subscription, right? So it's based on subscription. So if the license is not renewed, will the backup job stop? The backup job will stop. All right. So what happens is that when you stop the subscription will go into community edition. So as the community edition, if you go to our website to download our software, you notice that all our products we offer community edition. Community edition, there's no, it's not like a trial. It's a full-fledged software, but it's just that we restrict the number of workload to protect. So typically from VBR side of things, Veeam backup software or anything, is about 10 instances that we protect, right? Up to 10 instances. The other thing that I just want to highlight about the license, right? So Veeam do not hold your backup data ransom in a sense, right? We do not hold your backup data as a ransom, right? So in the event, let's say you stop subscribing or you stop the newer platforms such as stop paying for Veeam license to use, right? Your backup data is in the Veeam backup format, right? You still have the capability to restore your data using Veeam, right? Using the Veeam, the community edition to perform your recovery. So take for example, Veeam backup and replication. If you are using the VUL license, you subscribe to it and you protect your environment, you have that set of data. And for whatever reason, you decide to move on to another vendor, not Veeam. But you have a set of data that is you back them up and you need to keep them for compliance purpose. You need to keep for 7 years. Maybe 7 years down the road, halfway through, you need to restore some of your data because of some legality issues. You can use the Veeam community edition to perform the full VM backup. You can perform a file restore. You can perform instant VM restore. You can perform application level restore, right? Using the community edition free one, right? Okay. Okay, so I hope that answered that question from Ricky and Leonardo, right? So the license will the backup will stop because we will restrict to the 10 backup job, right? But in terms of restore, you have the capability to continue to restore your data even without any subscription paid. Next, I'd like to answer Mark's email, right? Does Veeam support data transmission manager? I'm not too sure when you say data transmission manager is about probably it's a banking software. Uh, I'm not too sure. Really depends on the operating system that we do. So if let's say for example, or is it the transmission manager? Probably you want we can bring it offline and we can catch up and try to understand what does your transmission manager does, right? And what kind of operating system. For most backup vendor, we will always look at what is the operating system, right? Does that operating fall under our compatibility list, stuff like that, right? Physical or VMs. If it's VMs, we normally will ask you, does it run on, from Veeam, we support the three hypervisor, right? VMware, Hyper-V, or AHV or Acropolis, right? If it's other hypervisor, then such as Zen or anything, we then will use the agent-based approach to perform the backup. Right. So Sanil, right? Yeah. If we update the software, does the license still usable? Or do we need to purchase that? Right. So when you purchase a subscription, BUL, you comes by default support, right? So you are entitled to perform the upgrade, right? So you do not need to purchase a separate license. All right. Hope I answer your question. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay. Thank you for that, Tech. So, before we end our session, we would like to invite everyone to answer our feedback form. You can scan the QR code or you can click on the link on the chat box that we have sent. Uh, for everyone who will be filling up the QR code with the complete details, they will be getting 200 GC, uh, 200 worth of Gcash credits. Okay, so Gcash accounts is required to claim the prize. Accounts not belonging to to those who answer the feedback form will not be honored. Okay, so we'll give you uh 3 minutes to answer the feedback form, as well as this will serve as your entry for our raffle later on for the Poly Voyager C200. Okay, so I encourage everyone, we can see here that most of you are trying to answer it now. So I encourage everyone to scan the QR code or click on the link on the screens, on the chat panel rather, to access eval form. So we'll wait for 3 minutes. While waiting, we would like to show you this video, a short pitch for Veeam.
If you're like me and responsible for large amounts of data for a thriving company, you want to know your data is safe, protected, and easily accessible. That's why I'm all about Veeam Availability Suite version 10. It's seriously simple, seriously flexible, and seriously reliable. It's Veeam. You know better than to trust your larger data with just anyone.
Up. I'm trying. Angle it over. I don't know what angle it over means, and I am going up.
Fellas, drop this.
You broke the leg off the couch? Why didn't you tell me how big this thing was? I thought you'd be able to handle it.
Veeam Availability Suite version 10 is incredibly secure, unlike the antiquated security systems still being used by others.
Why do I feel like my stuff isn't even safe here?
Beats me. We got double layered encryption on all your stuff.
What does that mean?
2 layers. And we have lasers.
Instead of outdated vaults that are common, Veeam uses S3 object lock functionality and immutable backups. What does that even mean? I'll show you. It means no one's getting in there.
Hey, Tyler, is this you?
No, it's my uncle. Oh, and the other thing is that my data is instantly recoverable in the cloud or locally. Hey, Randy.
Yes, sir.
I was hoping to keep a copy of that in my house.
Consider it done.
Wow, that was fast. You guys get it. So if you want the simplest, flexiblest, and reliablest solution for your data, just make sure it's also the Veeamist.
You can trust us. We'll take great care of your data. Oh, that was nothing. I was just trying something.
All right, okay. So we have 7 attendees who have answered already. We are currently at 25 attendees right now. So Veeam and WSI is in the spirit of giving. So we are encouraging everyone to answer the feedback form so that you will not only get a Gcash credit worth of 200 pesos, but you will also get a chance to win a Poly Voyager 3200. So we'll just wait for a little bit more for our attendees to answer our feedback form. But while waiting for others to answer the feedback form, I'd like to um, present a promo from the WSI, the Warehouse Burman Sale. Would like also to take this opportunity to let everyone know about our latest promotion at WSI, the Warehouse Burman Sale. Get amazing products for affordable prices. Just to let everyone know, Warehouse Burman Sale is already at year 2. This time with bigger and better discounts for all. We have products ranging from computer and accessories, communication, security and backup, and of course, business and management to help you maintain your productivity wherever, at home or on site. To view the full list of participating products with their discounted prices, feel free to visit the link on the screen. For those who have their smartphones with them right now, you can also scan the QR code we have provided. This year, we also have collaborated with WeSellIt, our official e-commerce site for Warehouse Burman Sale. Go check our prices at the link flash on the screen, and again, you may also scan the QR code on the side. To our attendees, all links will be sent to you on the chat panel as well. Enjoy shopping and stay safe. Okay, to close our webinar, I'd like to call on Miss Ramona Cornejo, Miss Dana, to give her closing remarks.
So before I end this session, we would like to introduce our team. As your distributor in Veeam, we have here with manager Mr. Elaine Canes, product specialist me and Jane Fernandez. We also have our engineer that you can contact anytime for your concern. We also hear Sofia Nicole Ramos, Jason Nicolas Prudente, and John Daniel Capuno. And thank you everyone for joining to our webinar session. Julan, I'll give you the stage.
Okay, thank you, Miss Dana, for that. So if you have any queries about Veeam, you can contact the people that Miss Dana presented. We will also be um, sending you an email also that you can find their contact details and emails below. So if you have any requirements and if you want to have a further discussion about Veeam, please feel free to contact us. Feel free to contact Sir Alain and Miss Dana for any of your backup solution requirements. Thank you again for attending, and I hope to see you soon on our next webinar. Thank you all.